What's up, everyone? Welcome back to James and the Giant Speech. Let's just get right into it. We have a lot to talk about today. With the war being at its height right now, at the most violent it's ever been, I think at this point, there's 18 dead U.S. service members. And I know even as we speak, the Trump administration is trying to remove some of those numbers from that count. I think it's important to zoom out, kind of when we're at the height of these escalations right now that we find ourselves in. It's important to zoom out and not forget what led us here, what got us here, and why this is all happening. I remember not too long ago, this all started happening at the end of February, early March, right? And okay, well, to go back just that far, I guess, Israel was the place that kind of lobbed the first bombs over there, first missiles over there, and started this wider conflict. And Marco Rubio said to the American people, he's like, we had to strike Iran before Israel did because, our service members are basically sitting ducks out there. If we weren't to plan for this, if they were just to go rogue and do it on their own, which we help Israel do everything, including starting a preemptive war that they've seemed to, only be a part of in Lebanon. I don't think they helped us in Iraq and Afghanistan. I don't think they actually sent any soldiers in those conflicts either. So we can go back even further and talk about that. But when Marco Rubio said, we had to strike Iran or Israel would have to help save our troops, all that stuff, that's kind of why we started this whole thing. It's really nonsensical. I mean, really, there's no better explanation than Israel wanted a conflict with Iran in order to destabilize them. And do basically the exact opposite of what is happening now. Iran's actually a rising power in the that sector of the world, and obviously the United States didn't want that. Obviously Israel didn't want that. But when you fuck around, you obviously find out sometimes. And with the strategic location of them having the ability to open or close the Strait of Hormuz, and also trying to make other passageways inaccessible, they want to become a world superpower, and it's kind of looking more likely that they will. Especially if we continue to escalate this. The only ending I see, maybe I'll get to that later in a second. I was just recounting back in February and March when, sometimes gas would be under $3, like it would be, $2.98, $2.97 here and there. I remember a bad gas price before all this happened was like $3.35. Like I'm like, oh, I'll just wait for it to go down, till the, $3, $3.01 mark or whatever. And sometimes it went below the $3 mark. All that to say is, like, what are we doing this for? Like, service members killed in action, soaring gas prices, a world economy that's seemingly more and more unstable, for all the obvious reasons that we can actually fix this time. And what's looking more and more every day to be a hot war with troops on the ground in Iran. So I wanted to zoom out and ask ourselves a question here, because we can obviously get so into it. Like, we're so into this war right now that we're not asking the super basic questions, especially when this war is still fresh. Like, it started in late February, March, right? It's not too late to really examine this and turn around and do the right thing. The more this war goes on, the more people are going to forget, why this is even happening. It's just going to become the status quo, just like us in the Middle East anyway has been the status quo. So this all doesn't seem like it's crazy to us. Maybe if we had the same conflict somewhere else in the world, maybe it would be it would catch people's ears. But again, with a title on a headline, Iran, blah, 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 missiles go off in Iran, blah, 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 Israel sends missiles, blah, blah, blah. We're all becoming so just used to these headlines. And it goes back decades and decades and decades. Like, I remember the same headlines with Iraq and Afghanistan when I was a kid. So nothing's really changed. But the precarity of, or just how the United States sees itself on the world stage versus Iran. Like, I think Iran is rising, the United States is falling, and it's all because of Trump's ego, Trump's willingness to help Israel at all costs for whatever reason. You can draw your own conclusions there. But we're in a precarious spot right now, is what I was trying to say. So we're sacrificing all of these things. There's no end in sight. What does winning look like? What seriously? What does winning look like? I hear Pete Hegseth say all the time about winning. Okay, what does that look like? Seriously, what does it look like? Does it look like the JCPOA when Obama made the JCPOA? Like everything was fine then. Like they were less of a threat then than they've ever been, right? And Trump tore up the JCPOA. And wanted the memorandum of understanding, which was objectively worse than the deal we made with the Iranians with the JCPOA. So, they signed it. We broke the JCPOA deal. We never really abided by it, but then they started striking our ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and now we're back to worse, than the memorandum of understanding. That was worse than the JCPOA. Which was Obama's agreement with the Iranians not to develop their nuclear program, and obviously have transparency with the program they do have. So it's all just everyone can see that we're in a worse place with the Middle East than we were under Obama, but Trump and his administration will never ever admit to that, and that's the scary part, is this guy's ego, right? I remember it was a Black Mirror episode, and I think it was one of the first ones, if not the first Black Mirror episode. And it's one that stuck with me because it is shocking. But I remember the leader of this country, I don't remember the fine details, but basically, long story short, is he had to have sex with this pig in order for some crazy good thing to happen, right? Like basically just do something in order to save the world. It's crazy, it's weird, it's bizarre, but basically it just goes to show one person can do a lot if they just do way less than that, right? Just swallow their ego, and admit that they were wrong, right? Admit that, okay, the JCPOA, looking at it objectively, is way better than the memorandum of understanding we had with Iran. And it's definitely better than losing service members in a conflict that, we shouldn't be in the first place. So, we keep zooming out here, zooming out here, zooming out here, and a win looks like, I still don't understand. I think a win looks like the JCPOA. That's what a win looks like. But I think Iran is in such a good position. They have so much leverage that there's no way that's going to happen. They kind of are controlling the global economy right now. And Trump knows that. We know that. They know that. It's kind of a mask off moment, really. We've never once won a war with bombing people. This has all the markings of Vietnam. Man, I forget what I want to make a parallel with Vietnam as well. There's multiple, but I'm forgetting what I wanted to bring up about that. Anyway, so I want to bring some levity into this conversation because it is kind of it's very depressing, especially when winning doesn't look great. What we're doing now doesn't look great. Having Iran become a bigger power, controlling, Strait of Hormuz and all these other entryways and exits for the world market with oil, that doesn't look great either, really. But I want to Tim Dillon. All right, well, let's pivot to Tim Dillon because he's talking about this as well. He does the best at revealing the truth with a spotlight through walking a tightrope of sarcasm, satire. It's and from his comedy, from his humor, you can really glean a whole bunch of truth from it. He is just, I think, the best comedian in these times. He hasn't sold out like we've seen other comedians do with the far right. He's really stayed true to his values and kind of the funny guy he is. But you can glean a lot of truth from his comedy. And I want to play a couple seconds here. I think I'm gonna pause it only one time, but let's hear Tim Dillon talk about his thoughts on the current war in Iran.
this idea that someone has to be our enemy because the Muslim Brotherhood hates the United States and would like to destroy it. Everyone would like something they can't have. This idea that Turkey is somehow a antagonist of the United States of America and that they're a threat to us in some way.
Yeah, that's Benjamin Netanyahu's new thing.
And they're infected with people who dislike us, and we have to. This has nothing to do with us. It's very clear it's not about America. It's not about America doing well. You know, this idea that we have to defeat every ideology we disagree with is a fucking insane thing. That would be like if you walked into work every day and you're like, I'm going to straighten everyone out here. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. It doesn't matter if you have the most money. It doesn't matter if you're the top producer or whatever the hell we think we are in this office scenario. You still can't walk in every day and go, I'm straightening everybody else out. You disagree with me? Fuck you. You do your own thing. You don't focus on them. You ignore them. They're irrelevant. They don't matter. They're not threatening you. They're not corrupting your culture in any meaningful way. All of this is crazy. This idea that, like, we have to care what the Muslim Brotherhood says about us is insane. Are we afraid of them? Are we afraid of them? Why did we spend all the money on nukes if we're so afraid of all these terrorist groups in all these countries, by the way, that we can't beat because we create. Wink, wink. That's why we can't beat them, because we create them. Interesting how that works. You give birth to something, it's actually harder to beat.
Okay. So he has a lot of points there. Mainly the fact that, like, why are we even there? Like, it's not, we're the world police is basically kind of, I think what he was alluding to. Yeah, you don't get along with everyone in your office, right? There might be someone you don't get along with. That doesn't mean you raid their desk every day and like they did in the office, like throw everything and run out the door. You know, we have to get along. That's it. Getting along with another country and having negotiation and diplomacy is way cheaper and costs way fewer lives, like zero, than war does. And it's the craziest thing is Iran came to the table multiple times, and from everything we can see objectively, they were negotiating in good faith. We not only didn't negotiate in good faith, would say things that we're going to do and do the opposite, we killed their negotiators. Like, we are the bad guy in this situation. Like, that's what people cannot wrap their heads around. Like, when I watched Andor, that's the Star Wars series. It's really good. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. But it's like so obvious that we're the Empire. We're the Galactic Empire, stealing all these resources, causing chaos because we don't want some country to do well, because they might be a threat to us, even though, you know, everyone else has nuclear weapons. It's the only place where we can shoot off all of our missiles and build military bases and basically have like a slush fund that is the Pentagon's budget. The Pentagon's budget is basically like a slush fund that they've never passed an audit before. So that's kind of interesting. Let's go back to Tim Dillon one more time, and then I'll close this guy out here in a little bit.
Isn't that odd? And you create them overtly, maybe through intelligence agencies, and you create them somewhat unwittingly, inevitably, by your actions in their countries. And you radicalize people, and it becomes a breeding ground. You know, and not to say the ones that we like directly are not to say anything about the ones we're directly hiring.
All right, I got an ad there, but that's a good place to stop it. When he was talking about radicalizing people, it's interesting because I was just watching this interview. It was Professor Pape, I think his name is, University of Chicago, did this big study about suicide attacks, suicide bombers, suicide terrorism, things like that. And it peaks and is at its height when there's actual boots on the ground, like hot war. That's when the threat of some sort of terrorist attack, a big one, because suicide attacks are very, very effective. There's a human that does it at the exact right time and the exact right place. It can often be very, very, very devastating. So he was basically saying that anytime that there's actual boots on the ground, there's a spike in suicide activity, suicide terrorism activity, and that's scary. I want to close it out by talking about how this can possibly end, right? We talked about what does winning look like, and that's sort of like, how it was in February. Like how was your life in February, right? That's the best case scenario. We can get back to that. That's it. One of the worst cases would be this, because we have the midterms coming up, right? And it's not looking good for Republicans on all metrics, right? We're not really talking about culture war anymore. We don't really have that narrative happening, especially when there's a war, the economy's on super, super thin ice. Those issues don't seem to rise up, right? And when those culture war issues don't seem to rise up, we seem to all get along. We have this little kumbaya moment that we're like, yeah, no one likes paying this much for gas. Yeah, no one likes paying this much at the grocery store. No one likes seeing United States service members being killed. So what might happen is the Republicans might lose, the House and Congress. They might lose everything, right? And if they do, they can't stop. I don't think how it is now, they can't stop the war, but what they can do and vote on is ending the funding for the war. So if they pass that, they say, okay, we're done funding the war. I don't think Trump's going to listen. And therein lies a really big problem of the ultimate power dynamic, right? Between, Trump, who wants to be a dictator, and the people in the House and Senate and Congress and all that, that are able to defund a war. I mean, I don't even think, I don't know if they've voted on if this was a war or not, or going to war. I don't think that was all bypassed. So I don't even know how that works. It just seems like he can do whatever he wants and no one's there to stop him. But possibly if, the majority of our government is Democrats, he's not only going to be like the lamest duck ever, but I think he's going to do a 180 and or 360, because he's never really changed. We talked about that in the first episode. We talked more about culture issues in the first episode, and like Trump himself, the deranged person he is. So I think he's really gonna fight it and not listen. If the Democrats do win all these positions and defund the war, and that's going to be really interesting. And it's basically going to be the ultimate proving ground in how much power Trump does have or thinks he has and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's not looking super hot. So yeah, I think I wanted to talk about one more thing, but then I forgot. I kind of tied in a lot of things about this war. I just don't want to get caught in the weeds. I don't want us to say, okay, this is the status quo. I want us to constantly question, why are we here in the first place? What are we doing here? Every single day, think about that. Think about how it was at the beginning of this year and where we are now and what actually transpired, being objective and just looking back, not too long ago. It all happened this year. Who started this war, right? What's this war? What would that even accomplish, right? I know the messaging was incredibly mixed. It's about the citizens now. Well, if it was about the population of Iran, maybe we can drop some sanctions if we actually want to help out the average person, because there's doctors, there's nurses, there's teachers, there's kids, those people all exist in Iran. We cannot lose sight of these are all human beings. Okay, so that's one part of it. So they said, this is for the citizens of Iran. Aren't they're terrorized, blah blah blah, by their own government. Okay, and then it was regime change. The thing about Iran, and they have to know this at the Pentagon. If I do, they do. They don't have a vertical hierarchy, right? If you take down one of their leaders, there's not someone that's below him and someone that's below him. It's horizontal. It doesn't matter. Like, that's a lot harder to cut down, is a horizontal hierarchy. They can just go one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. It doesn't really matter. And then when that didn't work, okay, is for the citizens. Now it's for regime change, and now it's for nuclear war, that, or the nukes that they have, and blah blah blah. And I think the next thing that they're gonna say is, because they obviously don't have a nuclear program and anything. Then we destroyed all of their military capacity, right? The Navy's at the bottom of the ocean. And meanwhile, they're still killing our service members. That's a lie. Yeah, it's just it sucks, like, being lied to from, like, the most powerful position in the country on a daily basis. So yeah, it wasn't for the citizens. It wasn't for regime change. It wasn't for the fact that they had a nuclear program worth a damn. It wasn't for, well, now I think what they're going to start saying is, and keep your ears out for this in the news, chemical weapons now. Now they're going to talk about chemical weapons. I know this question was brought to Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's extremely concerned about, obviously he writes the questions that he gets asked, extremely concerned about Iran having the capability of chemical weapons and stuff. So it goes on and on. The goalposts keep getting moved further and further and further back. And the further back the goalpost gets moved, the more it's likely that this is going to be a very scary situation, not only boots on the ground, but also with our economy. It wouldn't surprise me if gas literally, because gas right now in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, is $3.99. It wouldn't surprise me if it just hit $5, even $5.99, just skipping the $4, right? We just want to blow through that. We just skip through it. I think it's going to be spiking here pretty quickly. Prices we haven't seen in a long, long, long time. The only other thing we could do is have Trump swallow his ego. And we talked about this in the last episode. He's not a young person. Old dogs don't learn new tricks. Is that a saying? It's a saying because it's true. Old people don't change a whole lot, if at all. I'm starting to feel that myself. But it's way more likely that we're going to get stuck in this escalation trap, only to get worse and worse and worse, than it is that Trump finally swallows his ego and pulls out and agrees on a term, diplomacy, whatever, with Iran that is objectively, in every way, shape, or form, a worse deal than we had at the beginning of the year, a worse deal than what we had with the JCPOA that Obama was the creator of and helped do that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week, but if you enjoy this, I should say this at the top, but if you enjoy it, please subscribe, leave a comment, like this video. Every Monday, 8 a.m., these should hit. I don't know. I might miss a week here or there, but I'm really trying to do my best. Like I said, I am an owner of a production company, so we're doing lots of weddings and engagement shoots and other projects. Summer's our busiest time of year, so it's that time of year for us. So I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next week, if not that very soon. All right, bye. Thanks.